The story starts with a young man slowly waking up in complete and utter darkness, and he has no idea where he is or how he got there. But then a faint glow begins to flicker in front of him. The light grows steadily brighter, and before long, he realizes it's shining from somewhere inside what looks like an eggshell. A tiny crack lets him glimpse the world beyond, and he spots what appears to be a forest outside. But instead of clearing things up, the sight only confuses him more, especially when it hits him that he can't move a single muscle. Before he can even begin to process what's happening, a strange status screen pops up right in front of his eyes. As he reads it, his mind blanks out because it flat out tells him that he's a dragon egg, and that one sentence completely messes with his head. The screen then fully expands, and a mysterious divine voice echoes, calmly explaining that this interface shows all of his current stats in numeric form for easy understanding. Still dazed, he yells at the voice, demanding to know what the hell is going on. But the voice replies without a hint of emotion that it can't provide any further information because it is at level 1. That pisses him off even more, and in his irritation, he tries to wriggle just a bit. But to his shock, the slight movement causes his body to topple out of the tree he was resting in. He tumbles all the way down a hill, spinning helplessly, until he crashes near a riverbank. Now lying still beside the water, he finally catches a glimpse of his reflection in the stream, and sure enough, what stares back at him is the smooth, rounded shape of a dragon egg. Noticing how overwhelmed he is, the divine voice finally takes pity on him and decides to explain the situation more clearly. It confirms that he really is a dragon egg, which at least in this world, counts as an F-rank monster, the absolute weakest, and it warns him that if his shell cracks completely, he'll die instantly, and that tiny opening he made to look outside already puts his life at risk. The voice continues, saying that while dragon eggs start off as bottom-tier creatures, they carry the potential to evolve into terrifying dragons, assuming they live long enough to reach that stage. But there's a catch: dragon eggs are considered a high-value snack to many monsters, and since they don't have limbs, the only way to move is to roll. Even after learning all of that, he still couldn't wrap his head around what the hell was going on. Figuring it was way too risky to just stay put, he took off rolling at full speed, hoping to put as much distance behind him as possible. Sadly, his genius escape ended with him tumbling right off a small cliff. It wasn't even the first time he'd been falling a lot lately, and because of that, the system casually chimed in to inform him that his fall resistance had leveled up from 1 to 2. Not that it mattered much because the fall still took a chunk out of his HP, and it reminded him, once again, that he really needed to quit being reckless. Beat up and drained, he decided to pass out for a bit. And sure enough, by the time he woke up, his HP was back to full. That at least gave him a little peace of mind, because it looks like sleeping fully restores health in this weird, hostile world. Afterward, he went back to rolling around, deep in thought, wondering what was waiting for him once he finally hatched. Would he become some hulking dragon, forced to brawl non-stop just to stay alive? He kept rolling forward, lost in his own head, until something suddenly made him stop cold. Not too far away, he spotted a massive insect. His gut screamed danger, and without wasting a second, he ducked behind a nearby tree and immediately used his appraisal skill. The result pops up. The damn thing was called an egg eater. Pretty self-explanatory. As soon as the creature locked eyes on him, it darted straight toward him with killer intent. He bolted, rolling away as fast as his little body could manage. But even he knew this wasn't sustainable. He couldn't outrun it forever, and just rolling wouldn't save him. And at this rate, it was only a matter of time before he got caught, and he had to flip the script somehow. The monster chased him relentlessly, right up to the edge of another cliff. The moment it lunged to devour him whole, he threw everything he had into a last-second dodge, smashing straight into it and knocking it clean off the edge. The beast went tumbling down the slope and got shredded on impact, and just like that, he'd scored his first real kill. The system didn't waste a beat, and it announced he'd earned 12 experience points and had officially reached level 5. And with that, all his stats maxed out across the board. But that wasn't all. He'd now unlocked the requirements for evolution, and the system gave him two options: evolve into a baby dragon or a little dragon. With no clue what the difference even was, he hesitated, so the system stepped in with an explanation. Apparently, the little dragon was a dwarf species of dragon. Sure, it was considered small by dragon standards, but when fully grown, it was still bigger than a damn bear, and infamous for its brutal fire breath. But as for the baby dragon, the system breaks it down bluntly. It's not exactly built for combat. Its claws and fangs are too short to do any serious damage, but in exchange, it carries massive potential and can eventually evolve into a wide range of dragon species. Of course, that kind of potential comes with a catch. Baby dragons are considered premium grade prey. Monsters and adventurers alike are constantly hunting them down, making survival that much harder. So naturally he goes with the little dragon. It just seems like the smarter pick, more survivable, more straightforward. But right after making his choice, something unexpected happens. The divine voice suddenly wraps around him like a warm presence and tells him not to sell himself short. It says it's expecting great things from him, and that he should never settle, never aim low. That leaves him rattled, and he starts second-guessing himself, wondering if he only picked the little dragon because it felt safe. He remembers how the system described the baby dragon as a high-potential path, full of possibilities. That gets him thinking, maybe the little dragon can't evolve much past a certain point, or worse, maybe it can't evolve at all. With that uneasy thought lingering, he makes up his mind. He switches his choice to the baby dragon, deciding he'd rather take the risk than live with regret, as no way he is going to let fear dictate his path forward. The system acknowledges his choice and grants it. Almost immediately, his body begins to shift and reshape. He evolves into a small, bright yellow baby dragon, exactly as he'd selected. And along with the transformation, his stats get a huge upgrade, and he gains a ton of new skills. But surprisingly, his HP and MP don't refill after evolving. So even though he's stronger, he's still completely drained, and he'll need proper rest before doing anything else. Just as he's wrapping his head around all that, his stomach growls like a beast. Loud and clear, he's starving. So he glances over at the worm he took down earlier, and weirdly enough, it actually looks kinda appetizing now. That's when it hits him that he needs protein if he wants to keep growing stronger. With his dragon instincts kicking in full force, he doesn't overthink it. He dives right in and devours the whole thing like it's the most natural thing in the world. After that meal, he crashes, and when he wakes up the next morning, he feels completely recharged. Body's light, energy's full, and he's never felt better. He strolls over to a nearby river and catches his reflection in the water. That's when reality fully sinks in. He's been reincarnated into a whole new world. But there's one thing that doesn't sit right. He has no memory of his previous life. No name, no past, not even a clue if he used to be a girl or a boy. Right as he's mulling that over, he suddenly senses something behind him. Turning around, he spots a bunch of dark worms creeping up. But this time, instead of panicking or running for it, he charges straight in without hesitation. With his new abilities unlocked, he absolutely wrecks the first wave in no time. And as he keeps mowing them down one after another, he unlocks even more skills, making the fight smoother and more efficient with every passing second. Once he's finished wiping them all out, the hunger kicks in again. But he refuses to touch those nasty worms since he remembers exactly how awful they tasted last time. Nearby, he spots a cluster of mushrooms and figures they're worth a shot instead. But it's a big mistake, as he learns real fast that those mushrooms are poisonous. After suffering through the side effects, he swears to himself that he's never eating anything suspicious off the ground again. With that painful lesson behind him, he pushes deeper into the forest in search of actual prey. He's had enough of worm meat and refuses to live off garbage. After wandering for a while, he finally catches sight of a gray wolf nearby. It's clearly larger than he is, but that doesn't stop him. He blasts it with his baby breath and finishes it off with a solid dragon punch. The flames singe the wolf's fur, and the smell that hits his nose reminds him of grilled meat. Intrigued, he uses his breath again to cook it a little more. And when he takes a bite, it tastes incredible. Not long after, he runs into another gray wolf and takes it down even faster than the last one. And all that kills earns him a massive level boost, shooting him all the way up to level 20 out of 25. He realizes he's only 5 levels away from reaching evolution again. As he cooks and eats the second wolf just like before, it slowly dawns on him that this lifestyle, fighting, hunting, and feasting like a dragon, is starting to feel natural. He's becoming a dragon, for real. But even with all the strength he's gaining, the silence around him is beginning to wear thin. With no one to talk to but the divine voice, it's starting to feel lonely. Deep down, he finds himself wishing for someone, a companion, a friend, to share this strange new world with. Surprisingly, that wish is granted way sooner than he expected, as not long after, he hears faint voices echoing from somewhere up ahead. He can't make out the language, but just hearing them sparks hope inside him as those are human voices. He quickly ducks behind a nearby tree, peeking out just enough to spot a group of adventurers heading his way. For a second, he considers stepping out and introducing himself. But then reality hits. He's a dragon now, and they might see him as a threat the second they lay eyes on him. Still, a small part of him wonders, maybe if they see how tiny, harmless, and kinda adorable he is, they might not attack. Or maybe they'd even take him in as a pet. With that little spark of hope in his chest, he steps out from behind the tree and positions himself in front of the group, doing his absolute best to come off as cute and harmless. Unfortunately, the plan bombs completely because the adventurers don't see a cute creature. They see a prize, just another dragon to skin and sell. Without a moment's pause, the leader of the group lunges forward and slashes him right across the chest with his sword. Before he can even react, the man casts a paralyzing spell that floods through his body, locking his muscles in place and robbing him of all control. He tries to flee, but his limbs won't move. He collapses to the ground, helpless, as the adventurers slowly approach, blades ready, clearly preparing to finish the job. That's when it hits him, how naive he'd been, to think a dragon could ever get along with humans. After everything he'd survived, all the strength he fought so hard to gain, it felt like it was all about to be tossed away in a pointless, pathetic death. But just as the leader raises his weapon for the killing blow, a female adventurer suddenly steps in and blocks his path. She says there's no reason to kill something so tiny, harmless, and downright adorable. Stunned, he blinks up at her, completely unsure why he's still breathing. Then, he feels something warm spread through his body, and looking up, he realizes she's healing him. He quickly activates his appraisal skill and finds out that her name is Myria. Her MP's nearly drained, yet she's still using what little magic she has left to help him, and that alone stirs something inside him. Myria then keeps talking to him in a gentle tone, and after a little while, the system chimes in and announces that he's just unlocked the Greek language skill. If he levels it up, he'll be able to understand human speech even more clearly. But that quiet, heartwarming moment doesn't last long, as a sudden chorus of terrified screams erupts in the distance. Myria's face goes pale because she instantly recognizes the voices, and without thinking, she turns and bolts toward the source. He grabs her arm in a panic, trying desperately to stop her. He warns her through gestures that whatever's out there is way too dangerous to face on her own, but she shakes him off and runs anyway. Left behind, he stares for a moment, then clenches his jaw. He can't just sit there while the one person who showed him kindness runs straight into danger. Forcing himself back onto his feet, he rushes after her with everything he's got. When he finally reaches the battlefield, his heart sinks. Towering over the chaos is a rock dragon, classified as a C-rank threat, and the damn thing has 197 GP. And that kind of durability means it'd take a ton of power to bring down. Myria's already been wounded trying to fight it off, so he calls out to her in a panic. But the moment his voice reaches her, the rock dragon locks eyes with him instead. And now, with that massive monster staring directly at him, his whole body locks up. He can't breathe, can't move, and for a terrifying second, he wonders if this really is the end. He hasn't got the slightest clue how the hell he's supposed to bring down a damn beast like that. But then, the voice in Illusia's head starts yelling at him to run for his life. And even though he knows that Divine Warning is completely on point, there's no way in hell he's leaving Myria behind after she literally saved him just moments ago. Even if it costs him everything, he's not backing out now. So he steps straight into the open, fully exposing himself to drag the dragon's focus away from her. The instant the beast charges, Illusia throws himself to the side, narrowly avoiding it, then slams a heavy punch directly into its head. As he lands, he spots one of Myria's teammates collapse nearby. But the guy's HP is already flatlined, so no saving him now. The other one's barely hanging on, pinned under a fallen tree with just 5 GP left, so he's not gonna last much longer either. Illusia knows he's gotta act fast if he wants to save anyone, so he comes up with a risky plan. Slam into the dragon's head again, bait it into chasing him, and drag it far enough away so he can double back and rescue the survivors. But the dragon isn't some dumb brute. It suddenly uses a skill that blasts apart the ground in front of him, sending Illusia crashing hard into the dirt. The dragon lunges in for the kill, but Illusia throws a desperate fire punch right into its mouth, and to his surprise, it actually lands and does real damage. For a split second, he thinks he might stand a chance. But then, right before his eyes, the monster's HP bar starts refilling right back up as the dragon instantly regenerates. His heart sinks, so there's no chance in hell he's taking this thing down like he is now. He turns and runs while the beast is still focused on healing, knowing he has to make a choice and fast, so there's no way he can carry both survivors. Gritting his teeth, he chooses to save Myria, leaving the other guy behind, fully aware of what that means. He manages to get her to a safe distance, but she's still bleeding out, and her HP's dropping fast. He curses his lack of healing spells or medical knowledge. All he can do now is follow the faint scent of humans in the air and hope there's a settlement nearby with someone who can help. But along the way, he catches another scent. But this time, it's the reek of wolves, dozens of them. They've picked up Myria's blood and are closing in fast, and within moments, he's surrounded, completely boxed in with no clear escape route. Left with no choice, Illusia gently lays Myria down, turns to face the encroaching pack, and prepares to fight because now, it's either them or him. Shortly after, Myria briefly regains consciousness and catches a blurry glimpse of Illusia locked in battle, desperately fighting to protect her. But her body's still too wrecked to move, and she blacks out again within seconds. Hours drag by, and long into the night, Illusia keeps going, still hauling her in his arms despite his body nearly giving out. But finally his effort pays off, and he makes it to the gates of a human village. With the last bit of strength he's got, he starts shouting for help, begging someone to come save Myria. But to the villagers, all they hear is the terrifying roar of a monster echoing through the night. When the locals rush out to see what's going on, they're met with the horrifying sight of a dragon cradling an unconscious girl in its arms. Panic sets in, and without a second thought, they attack. Illusia tries to explain himself, to show he means no harm. But they don't understand a word, just more growls and snarls to their ears, so he realizes fast there's no way to reason with them. And with no other choice, he gently lays Myria down and bolts back into the woods, not wanting to make things worse. Later on, Myria finally wakes up in a soft bed and finds Marielle sitting beside her. Marielle explains that she was badly wounded and needed heavy white magic to heal. Myria learns she'd been unconscious for about 2 days. Her memories of what happened are fuzzy, so she assumes someone must have carried her back to the village. Marielle starts scolding her for being so reckless, heading out into the forest with just Daz and Grants at her side. That mention alone makes Myria tense up, and she immediately asks what happened to them. Marielle doesn't sugarcoat it. After they rescued Myria, search teams went looking for the others. They found Grants' lifeless body in the forest. As for Daz, his corpse was never found. All they discovered was a massive bloodstain under a tree, and from the looks of it, he likely became some monster's dinner. That news shatters Myria, and tears start pouring down her face as the guilt crashes in. She blames herself for not stopping Daz from going through with the mission. Marielle tries to comfort her, saying Daz was always a hothead who never listened when someone warned him. But Myria says that Daz might have been reckless, sure, but he was a good man, the kind who jumped in front of monsters to protect the village. So the kids loved him for that. But maybe he cared too much about being seen as a real warrior. One night at the tavern, some guy mocked him, saying he'd never be able to take down a rock dragon, no matter how hard he tried. That hit a nerve, so by the next morning, he'd already made up his mind. He was going to kill that rock dragon with Grants. Myria tried to stop him. She warned him it was insane, but once he locked onto something, he never let it go. So she went with them, just to make sure he'd make it back alive. But in the end, it wasn't enough. Marielle tells her it was Daz's pride that got him killed, and if nothing else, Myria should make damn sure she never makes that same mistake. But aside from that, she admits Myria did pretty well making it back to the village in one piece, considering how messed up her injuries were. That catches Myria off guard, and she's completely shocked to hear that she supposedly returned on her own, because as far as she remembers, she was unconscious the entire time. Marielle has no idea what she means. From her point of view, Myria stumbled back to the village alone, only to be attacked by a baby dragon at the gates. But Myria insists that she was knocked out cold by the rock dragon deep in the forest, so there's just no way she could have walked back on her own. She starts questioning if her memories just scrambled from all the trauma. But then, something clicks, and she remembers catching a glimpse of Illusia fending off the wolves. Maybe he was the one who brought her back. But with nobody able to identify the creature before it vanished into the woods, she has no way to know for sure. At the same time, Illusia wakes up from a nap, and all his injuries are completely gone. He figured a little rest would do the trick, but it still blows his mind how fast he recovers now. If he'd been reborn as a human, he'd probably still be coughing up blood. But that makes him wonder how Myria's doing. He knows there's no way he can go check in person because the villagers would slice him to ribbons the second they saw him. So he's stuck with nothing but hope that she pulled through. He used to think leveling up made him stronger, but after what happened with the rock dragon, he realizes the brutal truth. He's not any stronger than he was when he hatched. If he had been, maybe he could have saved that other guy too. But there's no point in crying over it now. What matters now is leveling up and getting better. Later, Illusia stumbles across a colony of dark worms and decides they'll make the perfect XP farm. But what follows is a one-sided slaughter. He wipes out every last one of them in a full-blown extermination, and by the end of it, not a single worm is left breathing, and Illusia officially hits level 25. and that means he's finally eligible to evolve again. He heads over to the lake, settles in comfortably, and tells the system to begin the evolution process. A moment later, a menu pops up, asking him to pick between 5 new forms. They're all some variation of small dragon. And then there's the plague dragon option, which he's already leaning away from. He has no clue what the differences between them even are, so he asks the system to break it down for him, and it starts walking him through what each title actually means. With little dragons, they grow strong really fast, but their level cap is lower, so their potential kind of flatlines later on. As for kid dragons, they're pretty much just upgraded baby dragons that still keep the high growth potential intact. Mini dragons sit somewhere in the middle. They don't have as many evolution paths, but their tree is solid and stable. Based on everything he's just learned, Illusia feels like one of the kid dragon forms might be the way to go. Still, before locking in his pick, he asks for a more detailed breakdown of what each one can actually do. The system explains that many dragons are a race known for slow personal growth and limited evolution choices, but they tend to have strong long-term potential. That sounds kind of promising, except Illusia isn't exactly thrilled about the slow start part. Then there's the mini angel dragon. It's basically a guardian-type spirit that devotes its entire existence to protecting others. It comes with powerful healing magic, which definitely catches Illusia's attention, especially after seeing Myria's magic firsthand. That kind of support could really come in hand. But there's a catch. The mini angel dragon totally sucks in combat, and in a brutal forest like this, that's a massive red flag. He needs to survive, not just babysit people. Next up is the kid dragon. The system tells him it's more or less a direct upgrade of his baby dragon form, just with all of its stats boosted across the board. Then there's the kid marble dragon, which is nearly identical, but with one key difference. It has a mutation that gives it a polka dot pattern and a super high affinity for magic. Illusia's really tempted by that one because having stronger magic sounds like a huge win in this world. But then the system starts laying out the info for the young plague dragon. It's the first evolution stage of a disaster-spreading evil dragon. And right away, Illusia cuts the explanation short. That one's a hard pass because he has zero interest in becoming an evil dragon. People already freak out just from seeing him. So if he turns into something literally described as a bringer of disaster, he can forget ever making a single friend. But just when he's about to dismiss it entirely, the system casually drops a game changer. The plague dragon can shapeshift into a human. That makes Illusia freeze. Suddenly, the evil dragon option doesn't seem so bad. If he can take on human form, he might finally be able to speak with people, connect with others, and actually have a normal conversation for once. And even if he has to carry the whole evil dragon title, maybe it'd be worth the risk. He knows full well that shifting into a young plague dragon is probably the dumbest move he could make. But with Myria stuck in his head, he's ready to take the gamble. On top of that, he's still dead set on getting that human transformation skill. So after thinking it through, he finally pulls the trigger and chooses to evolve into a young plague dragon. The divine voice confirms his choice, and the change hits instantly. His body warps and twists, the shift crashing through him like a damn freight train. When it's finally over, he catches his reflection in the water, and right then it hits him that he looks even uglier than before. Right after, the divine voice starts listing all the new skills he's acquired. At first, he's hyped. Hearing all the new powers gives him a rush of excitement and makes him feel unstoppable, but that feeling doesn't last. His mood crashes the moment he sees the twisted set of evil-type abilities now part of his arsenal. A pile of dark, nasty skills that make his stomach turn. And to top it all off, the whole reason he went through this creepy evolution was to get the human transformation skill in the first place. But when he checks his status board, that damn skill is nowhere to be found. Annoyed, he asks the divine voice if he needs to level up first to unlock it. Of course, the voice gives its usual worthless response, saying it can't give that info since he's only level 3. That just pisses him off even more. The system keeps droning on, explaining his other new powers in detail, and the more it reveals, the more horrified he gets. Nearly every skill sounds like it's built to spread death, disease, or suffering. By the time it's done, he's mentally wrecked, realizing just how monstrous this dragon form truly is. He regrets everything and just wants to turn back into his small, harmless self instead of this nightmare. At the same time, Marielle walks with Myria to recharge the warding stones. Myria's still shaken, unsure if that monster who rescued her was real, or just something her mind made up. Marielle, though, doesn't take any chances. She figures that if something actually slipped in because the stones failed, Then their defenses are seriously compromised. Right after she finishes recharging them, Myria quietly asks Marielle to tell her more about monsters. It doesn't take long for Marielle to pick up on how obsessed Myria has become. Ever since that day, Myria's been convinced that the creature she saw was trying to save her. That belief hasn't faded, and now she wants to learn more about monsters, hoping to understand what that moment really meant. Marielle figures there's no harm in telling Myria a bit more about monsters, so she starts laying it out. She explains that monsters grow stronger with each evolution, and the way they pull it off is by hunting down other creatures to level up. Levels aren't exclusive to monsters, humans have them too. People get better by stacking experience, but monsters operate on a whole different rhythm. Once they max out their level, they don't just plateau. They evolve, bumping up to a higher rank. Then it starts all over, they hunt, level, hit the ceiling again, and transform into something even stronger. Every single evolution makes them tougher, meaner, and harder to bring down. Myria listens in shock, completely blown away that humans have managed to figure out this much about monsters. It feels unreal that people can understand creatures so wildly different from them. But Marielle isn't done and says that some rare individuals can actually hear what's called a divine voice. This voice feeds them information, details about monsters' levels, skills, and even their origins. These gifted people are often labeled heroes or saints. Thanks to them, humans have gathered loads of precise knowledge about how monsters function and grow. Marielle's tone then shifts, more serious now. She warns Myria that monsters are wired to chase strength, to evolve into more brutal versions of themselves. That's their instinct, so even if the monster that saved her once meant no harm, the next time she sees it, it might have transformed into something way more dangerous. And if that's the case, it probably won't hesitate to attack her. Marielle urges her not to get the wrong impression. Monsters aren't misunderstood creatures. They're pure survival instinct in physical form. They exist to fight, to grow, and to dominate. That's why, no matter what, monsters and humans were never meant to live side by side. With that, she turns away and leaves Myria standing there, lost in thought and tangled in doubt. At the same time, our dragon boy is still dead set on leveling up. He's chasing that human transformation skill like it's his last shot, and with it, the chance to meet Myria again. Hoping to find some weaklings to boost his level fast, he starts moving out. But after a short while, he realizes something's off. His body's not moving right. He looks up and finds himself wrapped in thick webbing. And to make things worse, a massive spider monster just dropped down behind him with a bone-rattling thud. He immediately checks the spider's stats, and they're way too high for him to handle at his current level. It doesn't take long for him to realize there's no way he can win this fight head-on. The spider strikes first, and he quickly counters with his baby breath attack. The hit clearly does some damage, but when he glances back at the stat screen, he sees that the spider's HP has barely even budged. Not ready to give up, he switches tactics and unleashes a flurry of paralysis attacks, one after another, hoping to at least slow it down or chip away at its strength. But even after all that, the spider still has more than half its health left. That's when it clicks that he's not going to win this through brute force. Seeing how outmatched he is and how little his attacks are doing, he makes the smart call, time to run. He turns and bolts, trying to put as much distance as possible between himself and the beast. But before he can get very far, he hears it. The spider's already behind him, way faster than he expected. He tries activating his flight skill to escape, but it fails almost immediately because his level is still too low to lift off properly. With no other choice, he rolls and dodges through the forest, weaving between trees as the spider keeps chasing. Then he spots a cliff up ahead. It's a long drop, but it might be his only shot. Despite knowing his flying skill is unreliable, he commits. At the last second, he spreads his wings and manages to glide over the edge, barely clearing the gap and landing safely on the other side. He lets out a small cheer, relieved and proud that he managed to escape without a scratch. But the moment doesn't last long. He glances back, and his stomach drops. The spider is spinning a web bridge across the chasm and crawling its way toward him. For a second, he's frozen. But then instinct kicks in, and he takes off again, rolling at full speed, dodging rocks and trees while trying to widen the gap. On the way, he runs into a few other monsters, but they're nothing like the spider. He dispatches them quickly, grabbing whatever experience he can from each one. He keeps up the pace, constantly moving, constantly fighting. Before long, the divine voice rings out in his head that he's jumped from level 3 to level 8. That news hits him like a jolt of lightning because he's got a real shot now if he fights smart. Just as he steels himself for another round, the spider strikes first again, this time releasing a thick cloud of poison gas. Acting on instinct, he leaps up into the trees, narrowly avoiding the toxic haze below. While he's still up in the trees, it suddenly hits him that he's resistant to poison, and the gas doesn't even touch him. Better yet, the spider has no idea, so that gives him a perfect opening. He drops from the tree in a dramatic fall, playing dead like the gas took him out. As the spider creeps closer, ready to devour him, he springs into action. Mid-fall, he blasts it with baby breath, then smashes it into the ground with full force, finally taking it down for good. The rush of defeating such a powerful enemy causes his level to spike straight from 8 to 14, and he's absolutely buzzing with adrenaline. But even with that massive jump, he still doesn't unlock the human transformation skill. That dampens his mood a bit, making him wonder if there's some hidden condition he hasn't met yet. As he makes his way back, he notices a nearby cave that looks empty and pretty cool. Seeing no sign of life inside, he claims it as his own personal lair. Later, after cooking up some dinner and eating, he kicks back and starts thinking. He wonders if he'll ever be able to live among humans again, but quickly realizes that with how terrifying he looks in his current form, that's not likely. And without the human transformation skill, the regret of picking this evolution creeps in again. At the same time, in a small diner in the village, Myria is in complete shock. One of the old-timers just swore he saw Dawes alive. He said he was out fishing near the woods when he spotted Dawes walking deeper into the forest before vanishing from sight. Most people roll their eyes. The guy's a known drunk, and nobody takes him seriously. But the elder is adamant about what he saw. Myria wastes no time and rushes to tell Marielle what she heard, begging for permission to search the forest. But Marielle shuts the idea down immediately. She explains that if Dawes were alive, he would have come back already. Still, seeing how much this has shaken Myria, she gently reassures her that the guild will investigate and see what can be done. Myria nods, holding on to that sliver of hope. The following morning, our dragon wakes up feeling refreshed and more driven than ever to unlock that transformation skill. But then he notices something odd, a strange slime slithering across the cave floor. Curious, he tries to scan it, but the moment he does, his vision glitches and a sharp pain stabs through his head. It hurts like hell, but despite the pain, his view stats skill levels up to 4. With that upgrade, he's finally able to catch a blurry glimpse of the slime's stat window, and what he sees leaves him completely stunned. The numbers make no sense because this slime is packing insane power, way beyond anything he expected from such a low-tier monster. Suddenly, the slime hurls itself at him, but he reacts instantly, sidestepping the attack and slipping out before things go sideways. Figuring the fight's more trouble than it's worth, he lets it go and heads off in a different direction to explore new ground. Not long after, he stumbles upon something that catches his eye. A strange pot just sitting in the grass like it belongs there. It looks solid, maybe useful for storing fruit or supplies. He bends down to grab it, but the second his hand touches it, the object jerks awake and reveals its true identity. It's no pot. It's a D-rank monster called a potortoise, an odd blend of hardened clay pot and tortoise, fused into one bizarre creature. He wastes no time and goes in with a full-powered dragon punch, but even landing it square doesn't do much. Not one to give up so fast, he throws everything he's got at it, but the damn thing just uses a rest skill and heals back to full like nothing happened. Getting annoyed, he tackles it head-on and starts trying to force it open by sheer strength. But the shell's built like a tank. It's not budging. Then it clicks that this thing's a tortoise, not a turtle. And if there's one thing tortoises suck at, it's swimming, so without thinking twice, he grabs it and hurls it straight into the river, and problem solved. The system chimes in, letting him know he earned 36 experience points and officially hit level 15. A few other skills also leveled up, which gives him a small boost of satisfaction. Just as he's about to move on and keep exploring, he runs into a whole squad of potortoises. Turns out the first one must have called for backup before getting yeeted into the water. Judging by the way they're glaring at him, they didn't take kindly to that. And before he knows it, they start stacking up on top of one another like some weird monster totem. Still, he doesn't panic. Instead, he leaps into the air, grabs one of them, and chucks it straight into the rest, knocking the whole pile down like bowling pins. And since he wiped out so many in one hit, the system rewards him with a massive 594 experience points, enough to push him from level 15 all the way to 30 in one go. Seeing that, he can't help but feel a bit proud of himself. Even so, he's still a little annoyed that every time he beats one of these potortoises, their shells always end up shattered. That means he still doesn't have a single useful pot. As he pushes deeper into the forest, he realizes he's only 10 levels away from his next evolution. But the human transformation skill still hasn't shown up. and he starts to seriously wonder how much longer this grind is going to drag on. He keeps walking for a bit until he suddenly halts, sensing an eerie pressure in the air and the sound of heavy footsteps pounding the ground. Instinct kicks in, so he ducks into the bushes to hide and watch. That's when he sees it. A massive bear trudging through the clearing. But something feels off. This isn't just any bear, so he tries checking its stats. But he's too far away to see the full screen. All he can pull up are the basic details. Turns out, it's the same rank as him, meaning he might stand a chance in a straight-up fight. From the name, he recalls it's called a clay bear. That means it's not flesh and blood, but molded from hardened clay. If he somehow beats it, he might be able to repurpose it into a pot. Finally, a solid container for his loot. So far, the bear hasn't noticed him. Thinking he's got the upper hand, he decides to go for a surprise strike. He drops down from a tree and aims a fire punch right at it. But the bear whips around just in time. Its chest claws snap open, nearly cleaving him in half, but he barely manages to recover. After catching his breath, he shifts tactics, using speed and hit and run strikes to chip away at the bear's HP. It works well enough, and soon the bear is down to half health. He starts to believe he might actually pull this off. But then, the bear activates a regeneration skill, and in seconds, it's back to full strength. That's when he realizes he'll have to outlast it. If he can keep hammering it until the MP runs dry, it won't be able to heal again. So he sticks to the plan, dodging in and out, wearing the bear down little by little. It starts going his way until the bear suddenly lets out a deafening roar and unleashes a hidden sandstorm attack. Without warning, sharp clay spikes erupt along its back, completely wrecking his hit and run approach. To make things worse, the bear rips the spikes from its own body and starts hurling them like spears. He dodges frantically, barely keeping up, but then he notices something. The moment those spikes hit the ground, chunks of clay shatter off them. And just like that, a new idea flashes through his mind. He might have just figured out how to win this. The bear hurls another clay spike his way, but this time, he doesn't just dodge it. Instead, he grabs the projectile mid-roll, quickly molds the soft clay into a dense sphere with both hands, and channels all his power into a devastating meteorite strike. The glowing clay ball slams into the bear's chest, landing the final blow and putting an end to the fight. The clay bear crumbles, and seconds later, the divine voice echoes in his head, announcing that he's gained 300 experience points and jumped from level 30 to level 33. Better yet, he now has full access to the clay remains, so he heads back to his cave and begins carefully shaping a pot using the leftover clay from the battle. As the clay pot slowly bakes and takes form, he heads out again, this time hunting for food. After wandering for a while, he stumbles across a patch of strange, wild plants, ones he's never seen before. The odd colors and shapes catch his eye, stirring both curiosity and caution as he studies them. At the same time, Myria is shown venturing into the forest herself, despite Marielle's clear warning to stay away. But Myria's too determined to back down now. If there's even the slightest chance that Dawes is still alive somewhere out here, she refuses to sit around and do nothing. She isn't fully convinced the old man's story was real, but that doubt doesn't stop her. She knows she has to try. As she pushes deeper into the woods, a dark worm suddenly lunges at her, but she reacts fast, blasting it back with a powerful fire-based spell. She takes a deep breath and reminds herself that if she stays calm and alert, she should be able to make it through in one piece. While he's still busy exploring and taking notes on all the weird fruits and plants, slowly getting more into it than he expected, Myria is still pressing forward, fighting through fear and uncertainty with every step. Her heart pounds louder the deeper she goes, the trees growing denser around her. Eventually, she stops at a point just beyond the outskirts of her village. Her nerves catch up with her, and she decides that this is as far as she'll go. Just a quick scan of the area, then she'll turn back. That's what she tells herself, even as her feet hesitate to move. Later, our dragon makes it back home and feels a wave of satisfaction hit him when he sees that his clay bowl is finally done. He uses it to whip up a proper meal with the vegetables and meat he gathered earlier in the day. Once everything's ready, he takes a bite, and right away, he blurts out that it's the best thing he's ever tasted in his life. That said, the bowl's got issues. It's tough to drink from, and it leaks a bit around the edges, so he shrugs and tells himself he'll just craft a better, more comfortable one tomorrow. The next morning, a carriage makes its way through a nearby valley. Inside it sits a noblewoman known as Princess Melcha, who gets woken up by the two adventurers traveling alongside her. They glance out the window toward a dense forest in the distance and quickly agree. This has to be the place the guild wants them to investigate. Back in the forest, our dragon returns from hunting a pack of wolves. He skins them, guts the carcasses, and heads deeper into the woods to lay the pelts out so they can dry in the sun. But there's a problem. A group of monkeys keeps sneaking in and gnawing on the hides every time he turns his back, and it's really starting to piss him off. Fed up, he flashes a wicked grin and decides to coat the next batch with poison. If they're going to keep stealing from him, they can choke on it. With that, he sets off to find some poisonous flowers. Not long after, he stumbles into a broad field covered in bright, dangerous-looking plants. It's a colorful mess of toxins, but before he can start collecting anything, something new catches his eye. A monster he's never seen before. He appraises it and finds out it's called a venom princess lacerda. What really grabs his attention is that this species is fully loaded with poison-based skills. The creature spots him and immediately bolts, making him think she's just scared and running. But a few minutes later, she suddenly lunges out from the shadows, sinks her fangs into his neck, and darts off again before he can react. At first, he's baffled. The bite was weak, barely a scratch, so why flee without finishing the fight? But then it hits him. A crushing wave of poison floods his system, unlike anything he's ever experienced. His knees buckle, his limbs go numb, and even his shoulders won't move. He then slams into the ground, helpless, as the realization sets in. That wasn't a retreat, it was a setup, and this creature had him in a trap from the start. That concludes this episode. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the next part, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.